This is one of over 500 assisted PNF stretching demonstrations that can be found as part of my 80 Days to Your Dream Body course, which is available to my channel members. If you'd like to see all of them, then consider becoming a member. But for right now, let's get our stretch on. And while we're resting, we are going to continue with the assisted PNF stretching demonstration. And now we're going to transition into the shoulder flexors. For the shoulder flexors, the main emphasis in this stretch is going to be on the posterior fibers or the lateral fibers of the anterior deltoid. With regard to the positioning, we have a couple of different hand options available. But first, we would want the patient in a neutral position at the humerus. We don't want medial or lateral rotation. And then with the stabilizing hand, we would stabilize at the acromion. From here, what we could do, first hand position, is we could take our hand underneath the patient's forearm, and then we're going to go with an underhand supinated grip at the distal humerus. And then from here, we could go ahead and traction to create some space and take them deep into shoulder extension to target those shoulder flexors. This would be great if you have a very small or a very tiny or weak patient. If you have somebody who's rather large, then you're going to be using a lot of muscle as they go into flexion. So to minimize the use of muscle and maximize the use of your body's leverage, what I would like to do if I'm treating somebody like a NFL player or just somebody who's very, very strong, an athlete that's in a strength-based sport, the way that I would perform it is I would have the patient hug my torso. So I would get behind them, and then from here, I would cup over top of the acromion, and now I could use my body's leverage to just take them into shoulder extension. You guys figure out which way works more for you, just so you, for the purpose of the demonstration, so you can see exactly what's going on. I'm going to perform it the way I would perform this if I was performing it on a small, tiny patient or somebody who's very, very weak. So for somebody who's a little bit smaller, again, hand on the acromion, distal humerus, and then you could have their forearm resting on your forearm, and then we would go ahead and traction, take them deep into extension, and then for the PNF, we would instruct the patient to inhale and bring your arm forward. They would inhale and contract and go into shoulder flexion, and then as they exhale and relax, we would traction to create some space, and they then take them deep into shoulder extension. When we are focusing on the shoulder flexors at 0 degrees of coronal abduction, the main emphasis, once again, is going to be on the lateral or the posterior fibers of the anterior deltoid. We're also going to be getting a decent amount of stretch in the clavicular head of the pectoralis major. The pectoralis major, we have the clavicular head that attaches at the medial third of the clavicle, and then we have the sternal attachment that attaches from the manubrium, sternum, xiphoid process, and ribs. So at this 0 degree angle, we're mainly going to be targeting the lateral fibers of the clavicular attachment of the pectoralis major. Some other muscles that will be involved, we will be getting some stretch in both the coracobrachialis as well as the long head of the biceps brachii. And then we will be indirectly targeting the subscapularis. The subscapularis, we're really not getting a whole lot, and we're not directly targeting it. We're going to be targeting it via the fascial connections that connect to it. But the main emphasis in this position is going to be the posterior or the lateral fibers of the anterior deltoid. During the next rest period, we're going to start getting into the glenohumeral extensors or shoulder extensors. But for right now, our rest period is up. Time for set number 5. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.